Hello. So here it is, March 22nd, 2020, in the midst of the coronavirus, self-sheltering and figuring out how we be good humans together in this new normal, or new whatever. And being a guide in the park, I'm not at all sure what to do, but it's starting to come to me how I can serve in big ways and little ways. Today I had a nice request from one of my best friends who's a ranger that maybe I would bring up a sandwich from the cafe for all the tunnel rangers, or a treat or something, which was delightful. And I did that, and then I came up into one of my favorite canyons up here and have spent a few hours deeply alone and pondering and just being quiet and being with the birds and using my imagination in some fairly amazing ways. It's just as psychedelic as a mushroom trip without the mushrooms. It's kind of an amazing morning. And when I came out is when I really got what one of the things is I can do, which is why I'm shooting this video. There was a couple sitting on the flat spot directly in the center of this image right here who had their dog with them. And this is one of my favorite canyons. I come here a lot. It's definitely a backcountry canyon. And I've never seen anybody with a dog in here. Dogs are not allowed in the park except on one trail. And so I thought, well, what am I gonna do? You know, I mean, I love dogs as much as the next person, but I also know why it's a very bad idea to have them in this canyon. So I went over to the people and I asked them if I kept a safe, respectful distance, if I could just talk to them for a minute about their dog. And they said yes. And approaching them with soft energy opened the door for me being able to sit down at a good distance. I was probably 30 feet away, and just talk to them about why we have this rule in the park about dogs. And it's because of the sheep. I mean, it's all the wildlife, but really the sheep. If you think you are annoyed by the press of people in this park, imagine the sheep. And they have fewer and fewer spaces as we move in and encroach on their territory. But they've actually been very resilient as far as adapting to people. And, you know, they've taken us in and they move around us and they do their best and they keep showing up. But dogs is a different thing. Dogs are something they just are not familiar with. Dogs have not been in the park. The smell of a dog constricts their territory. They don't want to go where they're smelling dogs. So more dogs up in here constricts the sheep's territory. Do we want to do that? No. No, we don't. We don't want to constrict the sheep's territory. And as I explained this to these people, they completely understood. They completely understood. And the other thing about it is, as we talked about, is they had seen other people with dogs. And I said, well, that is the thing. If you see somebody doing something, you tend to think, well, that must be okay, unless you know why it's not. And so now that they know why the rule exists, they're quite willing and happy to not bring their dog into the backcountry of the park where the sheep are. And they're also very willing to have this gentle conversation with other people they might see with dogs. Say, you know, there was a guide up here we talked to who let us know why this rule exists. So, you know, it's there's natural resistance and resentment against rules that make no sense or rules that you just don't understand. And until somebody takes the time, either you to understand or somebody to sit down and let you know why this rule exists, then there's going to be resentment in the system. But when we can help each other out, I think this is one of the gifts of this virus, is getting past our natural disinclination to be seen as a bossy person or whatever, and to actually just sit down with people and say, you know, in this place, I know some things about what makes this system works, and I would like to share them with you, because what you've brought into the system really doesn't work. And if you love this place, I hope you might consider acting, now that you have different information, acting differently. And so I think we're going to all be doing that with each other, because all the rules have changed. I mean, All the rules have changed. We're being given time to go inside, consider things, experience things. Sometimes that's going to be very difficult. Sometimes it's going to be very beautiful. Oftentimes it's going to be both. But as we realize things and we come out and we share the things that work with each other, the reasons that we do certain things in certain places. You know, dogs are not intrinsically good or bad, just like anything else. There are places where dogs are wonderful. This is not one of them. So I just offer this up, a little bit of what I know about why we have this particular agreement in place in Zion National Park. It's for the sheep. Thanks so much. And the other thing I will say I'm loving is I'm seeing more kids out in nature than I have ever seen here. And I love that. So the other thing there's a rule about is, or, you know, I don't know if it's a rule, but it's something that we tend to discourage is throwing rocks. But you know what? These kids are out here throwing rocks. I threw rocks when I was a kid. Is throwing rocks on this slick rock going to hurt anything in this moment? No. So, sure, rules depend in both directions. Can I let go of my annoyance at kids throwing rocks and say, wow, I remember being a kid. I remember how great rock throwing is. And do I think a little extra erosion by people at this moment, these kids throwing rocks, do I think that's hurting anything? No, I don't. So have a great day, and I'll see you later.